apartment blocks and so many things, and they don't put any attention into it. They don't even care if there's infrastructure to support it. They just put up these high-rise buildings, and nobody can move in because the economy is shot in China. and nobody can even live there, and there's not even any water or electricity coming, and it's the same thing they're doing now in India. So in the same way, they're building all these schools, and the schools are sitting empty, and nobody's going to them, except for GIA, which I know outside of Mathura. That's a good school. But so many are just sitting empty. But still, the billboards are all showing a very proud-looking student, right? Like an accomplisher, and, train your child to be a leader, isn't it? This is the propaganda. Who is telling you to train your child to be a humble servant? Nobody. It's not valued in this world. It's, as we say in algebra, it's an excluded value. You can't have that. So this is our attitude. We would know no winter. We would know age-defying cream, ladies. You're always encouraged to buy these things, right? Anarthas. They don't do anything, right? 15 or 20 years ago, I can say, very confidently I can say, nobody had the chutzpah, that means sahas, to advertise anything that defies age or reverses the aging process. Somehow, with the progress of Kali Yuga in between 1990 and 2025, somebody got this idea in their mind that, yeah, I'm going to go for that, and I'm going to adopt that marketing strategy. This is just Kali Yuga polluting the intelligence. So yeah, they try to do this, and that's why we dye our hair, and that's why they take Viagra, and there's so many things that people are doing. Because they're just trying to circumvent the authority of the Supreme Lord, which is that, Baba, you get old. You're going to die. Why are your senses becoming so feeble in old age? Why are your hairs gray coming more and more every day? It's supposed to be a reminder. There's a person in charge of all of this. He's the one who's making you die, but he's trying to give you warning so that you can get your act together before it happens. That's love. It may be tough love, yes, but it's love. And the atheists, as Prabhupada has mentioned in his purport here, they don't want to see this. They don't want to see it. So, in fact, the rest of this chapter in Bhagavatam, chapter 29 of the third canto, it functions as a virtual commentary on all these Shruti mantras. It's nothing new, in other words. Gita Upanishad, that's why we call it Gita Upanishad. That's why it's Prasthanatrayi, because it so much embodies the spirit of the Upanishads. Same thing, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered by Gaudiya Vaishnavas to be Vyasadeva's own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, to tell us what it means. And what does it mean? It means devotional service. As we said last night, ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. That thing which will really satisfy you, that is the purpose of life. That is parodharma, that is bhakti. So, yad bhayat vati vatoyam suryastapati yad bhayat varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayat. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of God, the wind blows. Out of fear of him, the sun shines. Out of fear of him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. Now I'm going to end, but just one thing I would like to add, because we have plenty of God-fearing religions in this world, isn't it? God-fearing people. And for some, for too many, frankly, this fear of God, it's a good thing, it's a healthy thing, but we have to move beyond mere fear. Just like children. Children will behave because they're afraid of their parents, correct? But should the children only have fear of their parents? No, of course not. So I have to say, frankly, that the Abrahamic faiths in particular, they tend to emphasize this legalistic aspect too much. In the case of Islam, you just have to obey. That's the very meaning of the word Islam. And even the Christians and the Jews also, they overemphasize this fear of God. and obedience out of fear. Instead of primarily being motivated by fear, we should be primarily motivated by love, and that is something that only Srimad Bhagavatam can give you to this degree that we see in its pages. To the degree that the gopis and Krishna, all the Vrajavasis and Krishna, as we were singing, Vrajajana Ranjana. Krishna is pleasing to everyone, and they're each according to his or her own rasa. We all have our own rasa with Krishna. We can reciprocate with Krishna in that rasa, and we can give him something that he can get from no one else in that particular rasa. This we should know. And this we should be inspired by this information, and we should pursue Krishna consciousness diligently, so that while we can, before death comes again, the time factor, then we can reawaken that now dormant but eternally perfect love of God within our hearts. Okay, so I'll stop here. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Anyone have any questions or any comments? Also, if anyone has a tissue, I would appreciate it. Facial tissue. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for a wonderful class. So my question is like, I'm not sure you addressed already, but I want to like pinpoint the answer. How to translate that fear into lust, love? Whatever we are doing out of fear, how to do in the love? That is one question. And why we how we can transform that into love. Another question is like, how we will know like whether I'm doing with love or fear?
Well, love is spontaneous, frankly. To some degree, love is also, we can force it in the beginning. That's kind of like duty, and in its grossest stage, and its, embryonic stage, this love takes the form of this fear of God, which is why I said it's good, it's okay, but it's very it's very what is the word to say, nascent. It's not really developed yet. Kind of like we have, it's not even bhava yet. Bhava bhakti is the precursor to prema bhakti, correct? This is what we learned from Rupa Goswami. But this fear of God, it's not even bhava yet, because bhava is largely spontaneous, and it's mainly based in the heart. Fear is largely based up here in the head. It's an emotion, it's true, but it's really, we feel fear because we're conscious that some power beyond me is controlling my fate. Or if we're a little more advanced, we feel conscious that there's a supreme person who has the power to do anything to me. And if he's not happy, then I'm answerable to that, and that can be a problem for me. So this is like very, there's not much love involved. This is the point. So how do we transform it? That's your question. You chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You hear these things like this. We've heard all these things from the Upanishads and from Bhagavatam this morning to purify our intelligence. You have to purify both your intellect and your heart, because Bhagavatam will give you the information what to do, but the information alone is not sufficient to inspire you to do it. For that, the heart has to be pure, and for that we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, one may say that, well, I'm already doing that, right? Because most of us are. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here. That brings up the topic that we discussed last night, because one day, I think it was Hayagriva Prabhu, came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, or maybe it was, anyway, I won't mention names. It might have been somebody else, but he said, Prabhupada, I have a problem with lust, kama. And Prabhupada said, that's no problem. You just chant Hare Krishna. And he was not satisfied with his answer. Maybe some of you are not satisfied with his answer also. But, you know, he told Prabhupada, well, Prabhupada, I'm already chanting and still I have this problem. And Prabhupada got mad at him and said, no. He said, you're not chanting. When you feel this agitation, you do not chant. Correct? Yes. This is our problem. There are times in our lives when we would like to kind of, push Krishna out of the picture a little bit and pursue something else. Is it not? If we're honest, we will admit this. So this is what Prabhupada is talking about. So it takes some time. Therefore, Rupa Goswami has given us the best advice that anyone can give us in his Upadeshamritam. Second and third verses. He tells us, this is a formula that you can apply to your life, and you will see the difference. If you're very careful about avoiding non-devotional associations, you will get a definite benefit. If you're very careful about remaining enthusiastic, and it's not enough just to be enthusiastic. At the same time, you have to be determined, and you have to be convinced of what you're doing, right? Utsahan nishchayadharyat tat karma pravartanat, and you have to follow all the principles, even the little ones, Prabhupada said. Sangatyagat satovritte, and you have to lead a saintly life. Not that, from say 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm a saint, and then in the daytime I become passionate, and by the nighttime I'm a tamasic demon again. That means that we're not really focusing enough, as we discussed last night. So we have to really focus in these 6 ways, Rupa Goswami says, and that will assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Do we believe it? Then we have to act on it. Shadbhir bhakti prasiddhiti. And there's bad guys that you have to avoid also. What are those? Who can tell me? What are the bad ones? 6 good qualities, 6 bad qualities also. This is what Bhaktivinoda prays for in his song, O He Vaishnava Thakura. They're mentioned in Upadeshamrita. What's the other verse? Nobody knows? Ati ahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha loliamcha shadbhir bhakti vinashyati. It will destroy your bhakti. It is zurur. If you're not careful to weed out the garden, just like last night he introduced me to the Prabhu who's doing all the gardening in the temple now. So I told him that, yeah, you must be learning a lot about anartha nivritti from that service, right? If you're not careful to remove these little weeds, they're going to come back and choke you. It's true, very true. So you have to, what are the weeds? There are 6 categories. Ati ahara, ati ahre. Ahre means to take in. Taking in too much. It can mean, literally putting more things into your body, like foods and, other things. Or it can just mean collecting too many things, too much. Being too much interested in, taking things, exploiting this material world. That will destroy your bhakti if you're not careful to root it out. Prayasha is a similar thing. On the basis of that strong inclination that we have to achieve in this world and to enjoy the results of our achievements in this world, therefore, we work hard, prayasha. How hard? Pa, pa, ba, pa, ma. Except for the Tamilians, everybody knows pavarga. Right, it means parishram, and then pasena, you're foaming at the mouth. Yeah, that's how hard you're working. It's like horses. Ba, bandhana, you're bound up at every step with karma. Bhaya, you're afraid of what's happening next, and the time factor also scares us. This is what we're discussing. And finally, maranam, mrityu, death. There's this material existence. But devotional service is apavarga. None of these things is there in devotional service. Okay, so prayasha means to work hard to get all these things, and prajalpa. Oh my God. Especially, I hate to say it, ladies, the women, they have a more tendency to talk, right? At least my wife does. She's very sweet, but sometimes I have to tell her to talk less. So, prajalpa means needless talking, not just talking, about mundane things, but talking without a need. This is another thing that Prabhupada translates here. Niyama agraha, what does that mean? Niyama agraha. It can mean two things. Niyama agraha, niyama agraha. Failing to follow the tat tat karma pravartana, which we've mentioned already, right? All the little rules and regulations. That's a flaw. But to overemphasize the little rules and regulations too much, that's another flaw. Niyama agraha. To grab onto that thing as if it were the essence is also wrong. So janasanga, this is the main thing, my friends. This is the main thing that you have to guard against. Janasanga means associating with ordinary materialistic people because it is so contaminating. Association with other people, why is it so attractive? Because there's a spiritual energy there, but that spiritual energy is powerful. That's why we are so attracted to it. And when you're attracted to someone whose spiritual energy is covered completely by material anarthas, as we've been discussing, then the effect is that you also become covered. Sangat sanjayate, you got it. Yes. So this is the problem. Janasangascha lolyamcha. Lolyam means? Yeah, greed. Intense hankering for something. Now, on the other hand, this lolyam, Rupa Goswami says in Padyavali, it is the only means to get bhakti, but you have to channel it in the right direction. You have to steer your trajectory in life. And that means you have to follow these six. You have to avoid these six negative things. You have to embrace these six positive things that Rupa Goswami gives us. In this way, your bhakti will flourish. And you will go back to Godhead. But in the beginning, it's fear. So we have to just follow the process, but follow the process with these 12 items in mind, please. That is how you turn fear into love. Spasht hai?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Anything else? Yes. Nitya Gaurang, or he's elder. Aage badho. Nahi.
Maharaj, forgive me for my ignorance. I have one question because you bring up the topic of Puranas and everything. Is BBT already published a book on Padma Purana, or are they planning to publish Padma Purana?
Good question. Srila Prabhupada was planning to publish this. Rameshwar handed me a note that he himself had written in 1977 when Prabhupada gave him the instruction. Prabhupada mentions 4 specific titles that he wanted published. For some reason, the BBT nowadays is not really prioritizing new Sanskrit translations. Not sure why that is. Maybe it's on the logic that we discussed last night. Prabhupada concluded similarly that Narad Bhakti Sutra Kisura, was not so strong. But maybe there's just a lack. I don't think it's a lack of people who can translate. I think it's not a priority. Right now, they're about to translate the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in a full translation. For some reason, that was seen to be a priority. We have the summary study, but a full, in-depth translation with commentaries and with synonyms and all that, that is in some people's minds a big priority. So they're going to do that. And Dana Keli Kalmudi, I've heard is also coming out. I think just because it's already translated, not because it's so important for us, most of us. I personally would say that the Padma Purana is more important, especially because Prabhupada did say he wanted to translate it. Also the Vishnu Purana, also the Kathopanishad. And I think the other one is Bhavishya Purana, maybe. I don't remember now, but yeah, Prabhupada had some priorities. Srila Prabhupada had many priorities that are not the same as our priorities, and that's a problem. So we all have to work on that. Anyway, I mean, I could say a lot more about this, but I'm going to remain choop chop. So, yeah, I mean, maybe someday. Let's hope so. I'm willing to do it. Rameshwar was pushing me to do it. That's why he gave me that, that information at the time. But yeah, no, BBT has a different priority at the moment. Huh? Well, that's the same thing, though, with all of his translations. The BBT, you know, it's not really up to BBT standard. So it's going to be the same problem again. So, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for the wonderful class. So my question is around the ignorance and the foolishness. You mentioned like this devotional service, it might bring you opulence. But then when somebody comes into devotional service, that means he is coming out of the ignorance and doing. But when the opulence comes, you said that he might become foolish.
Well, because we've been tempted, no? All of us are neophyte. We're immature devotees. So, you know, it just takes, Maya knows how to balance everything. She knows exactly what's going to make each and every one of us fall. And believe you me, every one of us has a breaking point. Any CIA agent knows that you can get to anyone. You can crack anyone. It's just getting the right combo. So Maya's like this. And she knows exactly. That's why that very thing she will dangle in front of you. You see, you can have it. Come on. This is Maya's business. But if we're strong in Krishna consciousness, then we can say no. Namostute Maya Devi, but I have my guru. That is the benefit of developing this consciousness that Prabhupada asked us to sing every day. Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chitete Koryaika. Or for the Tamils, Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chitete Koryaika. Aruna Kori Homani Asha. I mean, what part do you not understand? So it's something to consider. Is that okay?
Yeah, what I'm understanding is because Maya knows exactly the weakest point and hits you in the weakest point, so that even though you think
and
that
very
you're
subtly
intelligent,
so also. Very sneaky she is. So very, very, really, she's quite confident.
Even though you overcome the ignorance in coming into Krishna consciousness, but since you are hit on the weakest point, you will become so foolish and get into it, and you will not be able to come out if you succumb.
Yeah, that's called anishta bhakti. It's before we're in the nishtha stage. Even in the nishtha stage, actually, you can still, sometimes it happens. A person is generally very strong, but, you know, especially if usually it's because there are offenses. If you commit offenses, then that strength that you would otherwise have is destroyed. And it's destroyed by whom? Not Maya. Who destroys it? Krishna. Yeah. He says, I don't like this. You can't offend. If you offend people, then your material desires become very strong, and they can choke your creeper. The most extreme example maybe is Bharat Maharaj. You know, he's in the bhava stage, Prabhupada said, and Firbi, he was, and a silly thing distracted him, silly little deer, an insignificant thing. But somehow or other his mind, this is Maya. It's dangerous. What to speak of Markandeya Rishi, with all the apsaras dancing and so many, all this. Karta Upanishad, since we've mentioned it also, you know the story of Nachiketa? Yeah, so he, you know, long story, I won't go into it now, but yeah, I mean, we're all tested in some way. Yamaraj tested him. So yeah.
Thank
Is
you.
that okay?
Yes.
Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the class. My
My question is around, you mentioned that we go through phases of life based on how our stars and nakshatras are aligned and whatnot.
And our karma, which is the
Karma.
same thing.
Yeah. And then I know that they affect us materially. Can they affect us spiritually as well? And then the follow-up on that.
Okay, one question at a time.
Okay.
The answer is yes. The answer is no. Spiritually, you're never affected spiritually. I said a moment ago that your Krishna consciousness is eternally perfect. It's already there. It's in you. It's not going anywhere. You can't get rid of it, actually. You can only efface it. You cannot erase it. So in that sense, no. But in another sense, because we're not in touch yet, we're deeply in illusion, and therefore we have these 4 defects of the conditioned soul. Therefore, we get bewildered. Yeah. So that these planets certainly can knock us over. Definitely. I've seen it happen. So we have to be very cautious of that. Not that we, go and try and appease these planets and do some puja and do this and that thing. Just by chanting Hare Krishna is there, but we should understand the tests are going to come, because that's the nature of our karma, the nature of existence within the realm of karma, I mean to say. So sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. That's the way the world is. Parantu matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukadukada agama paino nityas tanstatikshasu bharata. These things are coming and going. When your intelligence is awakened by studying Srimad Bhagavatam in the manner that we've been describing, then you will recognize this truth. When it's good, you will also recognize this truth when it is bad, and that's why you come to the level of Brahmana. And you're no longer disturbed by the, what is that, 257? Anybody know it? Anudvignamana. What is it? Huh? Dukeshu anudvignamana sukheshu vigataspriha. This, we have to come to this. That's the sign of somebody whose intelligence is awakened and becomes strong. When things are just going great, you don't become foolish and giddy and do irresponsible things and entangle yourself further. And when it's really trying circumstances also, you don't become discouraged or depressed and run away or give up. This is the strong intelligence. And that comes just by persevering in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness naturally includes hearing Bhagavatam, purifying our heart by chanting. But don't think the tests are ever going to stop. They will always be there, always. Even in the spiritual world, the tests are there. They're no longer material. They're no longer the manifestations of karma, but there's always going to be ups and downs. And you have to change. You can't change your circumstance at all. That's already going to happen no matter what. Just like Prabhupada. World War III, right? We're all worried about that now, especially because, after Pahalgam and all this, Prabhupada talked about this a lot. And he said, yeah, it will come, but devotees won't be affected. What he means by that is that not that, the war is not going to happen, but it means that devotees will be saved because their intelligence is higher than that. Don't try to change the world. You'll never do it. Always a failure, that effort. Change yourself. Change your consciousness, I mean to say, to Krishna consciousness. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Addressing the root of the matter.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now that said, I don't, different devotees have different opinions on astrology, for example. I don't discourage it because I found that it's very helpful in the same way that a GPS is helpful. But a GPS isn't going to clear up traffic. It's just going to tell you what the situation is you need to know. That's sattva guna. What's the primary symptom of sattva guna? Yeah, awareness. Increased awareness. Knowledge. Knowledge doesn't mean vidya. It's different. Knowledge means awareness. Jnana means awareness. So when we're in sattva guna, our awareness is increased. Our consciousness is increased. when we're in Rajoguna, our consciousness is distracted. And when we're in Tamoguna, our consciousness is decreased. Oh, okay. That's Tamoguna. But Sattvaguna means he's aware of everything. That has to be there. It's very, very advantageous to have that. So Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam in the 11th canto. Just like we said, the Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. And Jnana is the basis of liberation, and liberation is the basis of bhakti. So you have to be sattvic, and that's why Prabhupada told us, do your dharmas. Follow Varnashram Dharma in the ISKCON society. It's an important, a whole nother topic. If not another lecture, it's another seminar, I would say. Big, big thing. And it's also one that, we don't like because it makes us control our senses more than we would wish to. Really, that's what it comes down to. It's a battle between kama and bhakti. All right. Anything else before we adjourn?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, that was such a mesmerizing class. I'm asking a little practical question. Like you kept asking so many which verse and those things.
Yeah, I always like to do this.
Yes.
Keep you all on your toes.
Yeah. I was pretty embarrassed because I didn't know any of the answers.
Oh, no, I'm lenient. Have you heard Gaur Govinda Maharaj? How he would do it? Somebody didn't have it ready, and I said, "Stupid Baba." I mean, he would say things. He would very, and he'd go on for 3 hours also.
So my question is, how do we study in a way that we can answer your questions next time?
How do you study? Daily. And you begin wherever you are. If you're not studying anything at all, then at least you read one verse and purport a day. Better than that, you do a chapter a day. That's the Chad program from ISV ISKCON, Vaisheshika. Study Bhagavad Gita, a chapter a day you can recite. You'd be surprised how well you learn Bhagavad Gita by doing that, especially if you know some Sanskrit. It's very, very helpful. Just the translations but at least one purport, because I never like to get too far away from Bhaktivedanta purports. I read so many things. That's part of my service. But, without Prabhupada's purports, we lose it. I don't care what you're reading or from who. It just, without Prabhupada, we lose it. We gradually become filmy, and then we become, hazy, and then we lose it. Have to stay in touch with the Bhaktivedanta purports every single day. Now, you can learn verses. This is also another function of Vishnu Smaranam, to memorize verses, Vishnu Smaranam. And that way those verses are ready when you need them. Because you will need them. Read with other people, with other devotees, and repeat whatever you read to someone else also. That solidifies what you've heard. But you have to, we discussed the other night, wasn't it? Was it here, I think? The austerity of knowledge? Did I explain that here? Are you sure? Okay, yeah. So, the first step is you have to actually gain that knowledge. It means that you have to hear every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So do it. Make a schedule. Get up 5 minutes earlier and use that 5 minutes to read. Anybody can get up 5 minutes earlier, right? It's possible. Just the volition has to be there. And if you've got somebody else to read with, that is an extra incentive, because on our own, nobody will know, right? But if somebody else is expecting me, then I have to, sometimes that's what it takes, so do it. But at any rate, Srimad Bhagavatarthanam asvadayirasikai, he says. To taste Srimad Bhagavatam, it's really happening in the association of devotees. Anybody know Tulsi Das here? Hindi wale? Yeah, so what is that? Bino satsangana harikatha bino mohana bhaga, he says. Without satsanga, there's hardly you can have harikatha. Very, very positive. Prabhupada encouraged us to read with other devotees. Now you can do it so easily. You push a button on your computer, it's done. Or on your phone even. ठीक है? ठीक रहेगा?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. You mentioned about the Shruti in Bhagavad Gita. So how do we identify those verses?
You study the Upanishads.
Oh, Krishna.
They're not much. The Upanishads are very short. Like Isha Upanishad, only 18 verses, no?
Okay,
They're not very big.
okay.
But the problem is that there's no good translations. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay, people are getting restless, so I take it as a sign that we have to kind of conclude now. If there are no more questions, nobody has any more questions, because I don't like to ignore questions either. But maybe we're done now. So one last question. I forgot your name already, sorry. Veena, yeah. Yeah, Saraswati Veena.
Yes. So if you're, I think you already answered, but does chanting help with the astrology, like stars,
Of course.
planets and all?
Of course. Prabhupada said when you clap your hands in the arati and dance in Sankirtana, all the lines on your palm change. He's being, of course, facetious, but yeah, no, this is the whole point. It destroys karma. Yeah. So yeah, a person, devotional service makes everything auspicious. You don't have to rely on karmic means. That's not at all necessary, and it is a big distraction for most people. Okay? All right. Okay, one last one.
So Prabhu, when they were introducing you for the first time, they said that you met Prabhupada Ji in 75 or 76.
76.
And then
June.
Prabhupada Ji left this world
77.
77. What
November.
kept you going on the path? Because
Okay,
Maya
good
hits.
question. Yeah.
I want to know so much about you, and I've heard a lot of singers and all, but somehow, Prabhu, when I see you playing, I just see like steadfast practice and tapa.
I'm doing this 50 years. What do you expect? I should have something, right? I should have more by this time. Really, I'm ashamed, actually. But I hardly got any of Prabhupada's association. You may know that. I just saw him give the class. I offered flowers. That's it, really. So what has sustained me? What attracted me? To say what really hooked me, I should say, was Prabhupada's books, the philosophy, Bhagavad Gita and other books, all of his books. That has sustained me also through the years, and therefore even at this very moment, I'm always encouraging everyone to read, because that's really where I get my rasa from. And Prabhupada wrote his books very carefully to effect that in all people who sincerely hear from him in that way. So the same association that I got inspired from Srila Prabhupada is available to all of you also. It's the same. Koi fark nahi. Just a few minutes only, I maybe saw him once or twice. But, otherwise the real thing is in his books, and he said that so many times. So there's no reason that, others cannot also come to the same platform. Prabhupada said, if you want to know me, read my books. Is okay? All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. You know what they sing in ISV when it's time for prasadam? Prasade sarva dukkhanam asya. Who knows? Anybody know this verse? Prasade sarva dukkhanam anir asyopajayate and prasanna chetasa hyashu buddhi paryavatishtate. Your intelligence will become fixed when you're in a state of grace, which is the result of prasadam. All your miseries will be destroyed, and your intelligence will be steady.